The diner was almost deserted that night, the kind of quiet that feels heavy, like loneliness echoing in an empty room. Rain tapped gently against the glass windows, and the fluorescent lights above hummed faintly, trying to chase away the gloom outside. Ethan sat in his usual corner booth, his gaze fixed on the cold cup of coffee in front of him. He'd been coming here every night for months. Same booth, same order, same silence. The waitress, Lily, always greeted him with a tired but gentle smile. She never asked questions, never pried into his sadness, just offered quiet kindness in small ways. But that night, something was different. When she brought him the check, Ethan noticed something written at the bottom in blue ink, words that froze him where he sat. If you don't come, it'll be too late. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the mysterious ways life connects us, then take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, because what happened next just might remind you how one small act can save a life. Ethan Reed was once a man who had everything: a steady engineering job in Seattle, a warm home, and a wife who laughed like summer rain. But 2 years ago, tragedy struck. A car crash had taken Emily, his wife, his light, and from that day forward, Ethan stopped living. He simply existed. Each day blended into the next. He'd wake up, stare blankly at the walls, move through work in silence, and end the night at that same diner booth, as if anchored there by his own grief. Maybe it wasn't the food that kept him coming back. Maybe it was the quiet familiarity, the illusion that he wasn't completely alone. Lily worked most nights. She was in her early 30s, with kind eyes that carried storms of their own. She'd refill Ethan's cup before he asked, sometimes place a cookie beside it. Once, when she noticed tears he didn't even know had fallen, she wordlessly slid a napkin toward him. She never said anything, never intruded, and Ethan thought she was simply another quiet soul trying to survive her own pain. He never imagined hers was deeper than his. That night, after reading the note, he couldn't stop replaying the words. If you don't come, it'll be too late. Come where? Too late for what? He looked up to ask, but Lily was gone. The clock struck midnight, and a younger waitress told him Lily had clocked out early. Ethan went home, confused and uneasy. The note folded tight in his jacket pocket. By morning, he still couldn't shake it off. He told himself it was probably nothing. A mix-up, maybe about the diner's hours, or a note written on the wrong bill. But a voice inside whispered otherwise. Those words had felt desperate. That night, Ethan returned to the diner earlier than usual. Same booth, same hum of lights, but no Lily. Trying to sound casual, he asked the manager where she was. The man sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. She's been having a hard time, he said softly. Didn't come in tonight, might not be back for a while. Ethan's heart twisted. It wasn't random. He knew it now. Outside, rain poured again, and Ethan stood beneath it, trembling. He still had her full name from the receipt, Lily Hart. He didn't know why he cared so much, but maybe it was because for the first time in years, someone had reached out to him, even if through a plea for help. He searched her name online, scrolling endlessly until he found a small local article. It was about a woman who'd lost her daughter 2 years earlier. Her name matched. The piece said her 6-year-old daughter, Ava, had died in a fire that destroyed their apartment building. Lily had survived but never spoke publicly again. The landlord blamed faulty wiring. Lily blamed herself for lighting a candle. That night, Ethan closed his laptop slowly, a deep ache breaking open inside him. He understood her silence now. Pain recognized pain. The next morning he drove to the neighborhood mentioned in the article. The building was gone, just an empty lot, fenced in and overgrown with weeds. A few blocks away stood a small church with a sign that read "Soup Kitchen Tonight." He parked, stepped inside, and froze. Behind the counter, wearing a worn apron, stood Lily. She looked thinner, paler, her smile fragile. When she saw him, her eyes widened in shock, then softened with something like relief. She didn't speak, just motioned for him to wait. When the line finally thinned, she came over, wiping her hands nervously on her apron. "You came," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but a faint smile tugged at her lips. Ethan nodded, unsure what to say. "You wrote the note," he murmured. She nodded again, tears glimmering. "I didn't know who else to reach out to," she said quietly. "You always looked like you understood sadness. I thought maybe you'd understand mine." They sat on a bench behind the church, rain falling softly around them. Lily began to speak. After her daughter's death, she'd spent months in hospitals, drowning in guilt and depression. Working at the diner had been her attempt at normalcy, a way to feel connected again. But lately, the darkness had crept back in. She admitted she'd written that note because she had planned to end her life that night after her shift. She hadn't expected him to come, but some small, fragile part of her had hoped he would. Ethan sat in silence, tears streaming freely. Finally he whispered, "You saved me too, Lily. You were the only person who made me feel seen again." That night, they sat together for hours, two broken souls sharing the same rain. Over the next weeks Ethan kept visiting her, not at the diner but at the church. Together, they volunteered, serving meals and coffee to people whose stories weighed as heavily as their own. Little by little, Lily began to laugh again. And Ethan did too. Their scars didn't vanish, but light began to slip through the cracks. Ethan picked up painting again, something he hadn't done since Emily's death. He painted faces from the soup kitchen, and the warmth of Lily's smile as she played with the children there. Lily, in turn, began dreaming again. She applied for counseling courses, hoping to help others like her one day. Months later, as the sun dipped behind the church windows, she handed him a small folded note. Her hands were steady this time. It read, "Thank you for coming that night. You didn't just save me. You reminded me that I still mattered." Ethan smiled through tears, folding the note beside the first one, the one that had changed both their lives. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. They still had bad days, moments when grief would sneak back in. But now they faced it together. Sometimes they'd sit at that same booth where it had all begun. The diner felt brighter now, the coffee warmer, the silence gentle instead of hollow. And one rainy evening, as Ethan watched raindrops race down the window, Lily whispered, "Do you ever think maybe people meet for reasons we'll never really understand?" He smiled, catching her reflection in the glass. "Maybe the reason," he said softly, "is to remind each other that we're still alive." If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, because sometimes one small act of kindness can rewrite the ending of someone's story. Before we end, tell me in the comments, do you believe in second chances? A few years later, that same diner hung a small framed photo on its wall, a picture of Ethan and Lily serving meals together at the church. Beneath it was a handwritten note that read, "If you don't come, it'll be too late." Every night strangers would pause to read it, and maybe, just maybe, choose to reach out before it's too late for someone else. Because saving someone doesn't always mean pulling them from a burning building. Sometimes, it simply means showing up when no one else does.